14 songs. That's what BTS dropped on the world when the official tracklist for ARIRANG went live on their social media channels in early March. 14 songs, 14 titles, and within minutes, ARMY had already dissected every single word, every comma, every detail of that tracklist like a team of forensic analysts who had been waiting years for exactly this moment. But here's what stopped people cold. Among those 14 tracks, there are specific songs, specific titles and positions on the tracklist that fans immediately flagged as potential Jimin and Suga collaborations. Not because of any official confirmation, not because of any leaked information, but because the patterns are there, hiding in plain sight for anyone who knows how to read them. And the conversation that exploded in fan communities after that tracklist dropped is unlike anything we've seen in a long time. Because what ARMY is pointing to isn't just wishful thinking. There's a logic to it. A musical logic, a historical logic, and a deeply personal logic rooted in everything we know about who these two artists are and what they've been building toward. By the end of this video, you'll see exactly what fans are seeing, and you'll understand why, if they're right, certain tracks on this album could be the most significant musical moments of BTS's entire comeback. Don't skip, because the details matter here. Hello everyone, welcome back to this channel. If you're the kind of ARMY who goes beyond the surface, who wants the analysis, the context, and the deeper story behind every single development, this is exactly where you belong. Subscribe and hit the notification bell because this is what we do here, and we're just getting started. Now, let's build this picture properly. Because to understand why the ARIRANG track list is causing the reaction it's causing, you need to understand everything that led up to this moment. The album title alone, ARIRANG, is worth pausing on before we even get to the track list. ARIRANG is one of the most iconic and deeply significant folk songs in Korean cultural history. It has existed in various forms for centuries, passed down through generations, evolving across regions and eras, while maintaining its emotional core. A song about longing, about separation, about the ache of distance between people who belong together. It has been sung by Korean people in moments of collective joy and collective grief alike. It is, in many ways, the sound of Korean identity itself. For BTS to choose this as the title of their comeback album, the album that marks their return after a period of separation, of individual journeys, of military service and solo explorations, is a statement that goes far beyond marketing. It's a declaration of what this album is about at its most fundamental level. This is an album about coming back, about reunion, about the distance that was crossed to get here and the feeling of finally being on the other side of it. That context matters enormously when you look at the track list, because every song title, every placement, every structural decision about this album exists within that emotional framework. This is not just a collection of 14 songs, it's a narrative. And fans, particularly the most attentive segment of ARMY, have been reading that narrative very carefully since the moment the tracklist dropped. The official tracklist was revealed through BTS's social media channels in early March, and the reaction was immediate and intense. Within the first hour, the tracklist post had accumulated millions of interactions across platforms. Fan communities shifted into what can only be described as full analytical mode. Threads appeared, theories developed, specific tracks were highlighted and discussed with a level of detail that would impress anyone who underestimates how deeply ARMY engages with BTS's creative work. And at the center of much of that analysis, appearing again and again across different communities, different platforms, different languages, was the same conversation: Jimin and Suga, and the tracks that may belong to them. Let's walk through what fans are actually pointing to, and why the speculation around a potential Jimin and Suga collaboration on this album carries more weight than typical fan theorizing. First, the structural positioning. On any BTS album, the placement of tracks is never arbitrary. The members and their creative team think carefully about the architecture of a record. Which songs open, which songs close, which tracks sit at the emotional center of the album's journey.
Fans who have studied BTS's discography closely enough have developed an understanding of these structural patterns, and certain positions on the ARIRANG Tracklist have been flagged as the kinds of positions where deeply personal, emotionally significant collaborations tend to live. Second, the thematic resonance. Given that ARIRANG is built around the concept of reunion and return, of distance and longing, and the crossing of that distance, a Jimin and Suga collaboration would fit thematically in a way that almost no other combination would. Their individual journeys over the past couple of years have been defined by exactly the kinds of experiences that this album's title evokes. Jimin's intensely personal solo work, exploring vulnerability and emotional exposure. Suga's deeply honest creative output as August D, processing his own experiences with characteristic, unflinching clarity. Both of them navigating absence, distance, and the weight of time. If ARIRANG is an album about what it means to come back, to cross the distance and arrive on the other side, then Jimin and Suga together on a track that draws from both of their individual journeys would be one of the most lyrically and emotionally coherent things this album could contain. Third, and this is the detail that fans keep coming back to, the song titles themselves. Without going into specific speculation about tracks we can't confirm, what fans are responding to is the feeling that certain titles on this tracklist carry the sonic and emotional fingerprints of what a Jimin-Suga collaboration sounds like. The way certain words in those titles echo the themes each of them has explored individually in their solo work. The way specific titles seem to occupy a tonal space that sits between Jimin's world and Suga's world, not fully belonging to either, but feeling like the exact point where those two worlds would naturally converge. ARMY has been listening to both of them closely enough for long enough to recognize those patterns. And when multiple independent fan analysts across different communities land on the same conclusions without coordinating with each other, that convergence deserves attention. But wait, because there's a layer to this speculation that goes even deeper than tracklist analysis, and almost nobody has articulated it clearly yet. The question isn't just whether Jimin and Suga collaborated on specific tracks. The question is, what would it mean if they did? And to answer that, you have to understand something about where both of them are as artists right now, in 2026, after everything they've individually been through, versus where they were the last time BTS made an album together. Suga has emerged from his solo years as August D as one of the most critically respected artists in Korean music history. His willingness to be brutally honest in his lyrics about mental health, about pressure, about the cost of success and the weight of expectation has earned him a reputation that extends far beyond the K-pop world. He is taken seriously by people who have never listened to a BTS song in their lives. And that seriousness, that credibility, that depth, it's all available now to pour into a BTS album in a way that wasn't possible at earlier points in his career. Jimin has emerged from his solo years as an artist who found something essential about himself that he hadn't fully accessed before. His solo releases showed a willingness to be exposed in ways that even his most devoted fans hadn't previously seen from him. A rawness, a refusal to hide behind technical perfection, a decision to let the imperfect, uncertain, searching parts of himself be present in the music rather than polished away. These are two artists who have each, in their own way, gone somewhere difficult and come back changed, deeper, more themselves, more capable of the kind of artistic honesty that creates music that genuinely matters. Put those two artists, in this version of themselves, on a track together, and you have something that neither of them could have created 5 years ago. Something built from accumulated experience, accumulated growth, accumulated trust. That's what's at stake in the speculation about their potential collaboration on ARIRANG. It's not just about whether two members appear on the same track. It's about the possibility that two artists who have been on parallel journeys of transformation are about to show us what that transformation sounds like when their worlds combine. And here's what's even more extraordinary and what almost nobody is connecting properly. The title, Arirang, that ancient Korean folk song about longing and separation, has a specific lyrical theme that runs through many of its regional variations. The idea that the person you love is walking away, and you are watching them go, and you know that the road ahead of them is harder than they realize. But there's another interpretation of Arirang that is less commonly discussed outside of Korean cultural scholarship. In some readings, the song is not only about the grief of separation, it's about the faith that reunion is coming. The longing in Arirang is not hopeless longing, it's longing that exists because the person believes, even through the distance, that the separation is not permanent. That reading, longing as evidence of faith rather than despair, maps almost perfectly onto what the relationship between Jimin and Suga has looked like from the outside over the past several years. Two people who went their separate ways, who did the deeply personal work that each of them needed to do, who grew in directions that couldn't have been predicted, but who never stopped being who they are to each other. If a collaboration between them on this album captures even a fraction of that, if the music they make together on Arirang carries that emotional truth, it won't just be a great song on a great album, it will be the kind of music that people are still talking about a decade from now. Let's step back even further and look at the full picture of what Arirang represents as a cultural moment, because the significance of this album extends beyond BTS, beyond ARMY, and beyond the K-pop industry. BTS choosing to name their comeback album after one of Korea's most sacred cultural artifacts is a statement about identity, about roots, and about what it means to return to something essential after a long journey away. Arirang has been sung in moments of Korean collective grief, during periods of historical hardship, during times of national mourning, during moments when the Korean people needed a sound that reminded them of who they were and where they came from. For 7 men who have spent years carrying Korean culture to every corner of the world, who have, in ways both visible and invisible, shaped how their country is perceived globally, to claim that title for their reunion album is an act of extraordinary cultural intention. It says, this is who we are, this is where we come from, and we are coming back to it, fully, completely, without apology.
Within that context, every track on the album carries additional weight. Every collaboration, every solo moment, every musical choice is not just a personal artistic decision, it's a contribution to a larger statement about identity, about return, and about what it means to come home. A Jimin and Suga collaboration within that framework would not just be 2 members making music together, it would be 2 specific artistic identities, each of which has spent years developing and deepening, contributing their most essential selves to an album that is, at its core, about returning to something essential. That's an almost unbearably meaningful creative context. And whether the collaboration fans are speculating about is confirmed or not, the fact that ARMY is reading the tracklist this way, is feeling the possibility of it this strongly, tells you something important about how deeply this community understands these artists and what they mean to each other. And now we arrive at the moment that everything has been building toward. Arirang is 14 songs, 14 chances for BTS to say something that only they, in this exact configuration, at this exact moment in their lives, can say. 14 opportunities to take everything that the past several years have been, the growth, the distance, the individual journeys, the transformation, and turn it into something that the rest of the world can hear and feel and carry with them. And somewhere in those 14 songs, whether it's confirmed by official credits or revealed the moment the album plays for the first time, there may be a track that sounds like what happens when 2 people who know each other deeply, who have traveled different roads back to the same place, sit down together and make something honest. Something that carries the frequency science we talked about. Jimin's voice finding the space that Suga's production leaves open for it. Something built on the psychological safety of a creative relationship that has been tested and deepened over more than a decade. Something that the brain cannot ignore and the heart cannot easily let go of. Something that sounds in the most literal sense like coming home.
ARMY has been waiting for this album. Not just because BTS is back, but because this version of BTS, older, deeper, more fully themselves than they have ever been, is making music with everything they've accumulated. And if the tracklist analysis is right, if the fan speculation lands on something real, then March 21 won't just be a comeback, it will be a moment that defines what BTS is in 2026 at the height of everything they've become. And we get to be there for it. So here's my question for you, and I really want you to think about this before you answer. Looking at the ARIRANG Tracklist, which track are you most convinced could be a Jimin and Suga collaboration? And more importantly, what do you think that collaboration would sound like, given where both of them are as artists right now? Tell me in the comments, because this community's analysis has consistently been more insightful than anything I've read anywhere else, and a conversation like this one deserves the depth that only ARMY can bring to it. And if this video helped you feel the weight of what ARIRANG actually represents, not just as a BTS album, but as a cultural and artistic statement, share it. Because there are people out there who are about to encounter this album with no context for what they're walking into, and they deserve to understand what they're about to hear. That's everything for today. The album is coming, the stage is set, and everything these artists have been through, every difficult mile of every separate journey, has been leading here. See you in the next one. Purple You.